for being here. This is our last panel in this morning. This panel, it has joined me Carolina, that she currently serves as Executive Director of Fundación IDEA. Álvaro, that is Partner Director and General Manager of Macro Consult. Pablo, also, he is the Director of Public Policy for Libertad and Desarrollo. And Vladimir, that is an economist for the Mackenzie Center of Economic Freedom and partner at the Urban Consulting and Economic and Social Development for the University Presbyterian, Mackenzie University. In this panel, we are going to talk about a research that was done for a benchmark of more than 200 regions across different countries that are Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Mexico, Peru, and the US. Using 13 different indicators measuring the knowledge economy and also the globalization integration and the innovation capacity. So I would like to start the panel and ask you to begin this conversation if you could share key insights from your regions on how the knowledge economy and globalization is shaping your countries. I don't know if you want to start, Carolina, from there.
The invitation to the organizers and also to the ITIF to be, I think, a key piece in this alliance. I will try not to repeat what we wrote in our report because I think that we had a very limited space and we try to be very straightforward with our recommendations and how we see, in this case, Mexico is doing in terms of knowledge economy, globalization, and innovation capacity. But instead, I want to complement a little bit and maybe give a background so you can understand, first of all, what there is a disparity in terms of regions, in these three major topics, but also what we can expect from Mexico as a country in these three key aspects. So what we try to highlight in terms of knowledge economy was there is a pending agenda, and I think this is something that we also highlighted in the previous edition of this index. There is still a pending agenda on how to invest more in terms of human capital. And what we're seeing is still this administration has not gone with a good plan in terms of how to integrate all of this human capital strengthening strategy across all the sectors. What I mean is not only thinking about the labor market, but also thinking about, education. Or how to even work with the private companies to identify what skills should be certified or should be also be part of a larger strategy in improve some skills in terms of soft skills and tech skills. But we're seeing beyond that, we're facing a new challenge, which is a little bit, we didn't see this in the previous edition of this index. And the big challenge, and I think that we have been talking about this before around some members of this alliance, is migration. So right now, Mexico is playing a very key role in terms of migration in the whole region, because we're not only facing migration from Venezuela, but also we are facing migration from Central America and their path to the US. And so right now what we're facing is a very complex situation of the labor market in terms of how to absorb this labor mobility, because we are not only receiving people that are maybe not with education, complete education, but also we are receiving high qualified people. Some of the countries that we're receiving workers from are Venezuela, are Argentina, Colombia. So, and there is no strategy in how to absorb this. So there is that's something new that we highlighted in this index. And also, what we're seeing in terms of the skills needed is we need to think forward, right? We mentioned this yesterday with other members. It's like how to think about the skills that the market will need. And in this case, the artificial intelligence is something that we are, as a country, we are looking for. Actually, I know that during this quarter, a new law is being presented in the Congress to launch a national framework. So I think that's in terms of knowledge economy and something about globalization. And I think that we are going to cover this further on is tariffs. And I think that's something that we all share. So there is an uncertainty. I think it's more about the uncertainty about how this could end. Because we not only facing the executive orders or the decisions of the U.S. in terms of tariffs, but instead we're at the same time we're facing all the renegotiation of the USMCA. So we have basically two forums where we're talking about this, and there is still we know that in the case of sectors as automotive sector, semiconductors, even some agriculture products, there will be affected. So, but still, there is a big uncertainty in terms of that. So I would just keep it there.
Thank you very much for being here. It's a pleasure to be part of this GTIPA summit. Well, I'd like to say some things about Brazil, but I will start similar to Carol. The first paragraph that she said could be the same for Brazil, about our disparities and about what the government is not doing. Because if you compare the 2023 report and 2025 updates, most Brazilian states register modest gains in the index score, thanks to incremental advances. But what should be noted is that although these some incremental advances, we are surpassed by Mexico by far compared to the previous reports. So somehow Brazil is losing the pace of innovation capacity, and this is an important result about the index. I would say that in the past years we try to improve some regulation or smarter regulation in Brazil. For example, it came to highly educated population and skilled immigration. Brazil modernized its immigration framework to attract talent. So we have this migration law from 2017 that replaced the outdated foreign statute that simplified visa process and codified migrants' rights. So in order to deal with the startup visa in 2018 and in 2022 the digital nomad visa, allowing foreign professionals and investors to reside temporarily while developing innovative projects in Brazil. Another perspective that I have to say that the index reflects our disparities, our regional disparities. By the history and the economics of agglomeration, the most innovative states in Brazil are located in the south and southeast part of Brazil. And so the index reflects this. Even with, during this almost 10 years increase in the number of federal university and federal institutes in Brazil, that increased the number of people with tertiary college degree. What we're seeing is that people want get better education, they tend to move to the centers that are already being the core of innovation, the core of production, the core of income. So we are not solving this problem of creating an environment in the states of Northeast and North of Brazil to attract, to retain the talents. Something that I have to say about inward foreign direct investments are two bills that help to attract investments. First of them is the new gas law that's liberalized natural gas markets and attract a lot of investment, mainly in the region of the Rio de Janeiro, the state that produces the largest producer of oil and natural gas in Brazil. I have to say another important smart regulation, that is the Economic Freedom Law, the 2019 Economic Freedom Law, which simplified business registration and foreign equity rules. So these frameworks helped to improve the increasing of new companies, formality of new business that we had previously, but it's still in the process of state level and municipal level adoption in the case of economic freedom law. There is a federal law, but to be applied need to be equivalent state level and municipal level law. And the majority of the municipalities in Brazil have 5,500 municipalities. They are not adopt economic freedom law, but there is this perspective that improve the business environment with this law over the years. And I say, by conclusion of the report, that incremental progress is insufficient in a rapidly moving regional context. Even when states improve their absolute performance, relative competitiveness can decline if other regions advance more decisively. This is what happened to Brazil in this 2025 report, the states in Brazil. Just to have an idea, in the 2023 report, the top city, the top state of America, Latin America, was Mexico City, the federal district of Mexico City, and then São Paulo. In this report, and São Paulo was about, if I'm not wrong, ranked in position 54. In this ranking, São Paulo is ranked in 84, so lost 30 positions. Although there is, in terms of the score, an advance, but not enough. Another thing that is important is that strategic investment and coordination matter. So Brazilian states have benefited from target programs from federal government, but still suffer from fragmented policies, funding volatility, and lack of national state alignment. So this is an issue of a federal system, as in Brazil, we operate in a federal context. And also, that I say that even with the expansion of universities and college degrees, still we have a lack of education. So this is the main issue in order to get a better innovation environment in Brazil and also business environment. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Stephen and Federico, and the other guys that organized this event. As Natalia was saying earlier, in the last 10 years, Chile has suffered an stagnation in almost every economic and social indicator, from economic growth to education and crime. And this index shows something similar with many regions through Latin America that are performing better than the different regions in Chile. Of course, this is a very good news for Peru, Mexico, Brazil, but it's a red flag for us. And so let me elaborate in 3 areas that I think that are crucial for innovation, and Chile needs to take measures. First of all is our corporate tax. Nowadays, firms invest all over the world. In Chile, they face a corporate tax of 27%. That is 3 points above the OECD average. And that makes no sense for a country that is very far away from major markets and doesn't have the institutional strength that investors could find in other countries all over the world. Moreover, as Natalia was talking earlier, we have this one-day firm, but we have a huge red tape that needs to overcome to incentivize investments and innovation in our country. Just an example, last week, a mining company was approved after 12 years of process and going up and down all this bureaucracy and red tape and permits law system. The second one is we lack the human resource to innovate. Despite the enrollment in higher education is higher than the OECD in average, and we have still very good wage salary premiums for people that goes to higher education. 2/3 of our adult population doesn't have any higher education degree. And if you analyze the OECD test for adults, literacy and math skills, for example, 60% of Chileans are in level 1 or below, when in the OECD countries is less than 30%. So we have the same problems with younger guys measured by the PISA test. So we have a huge problem there because we are not attracting, for example, immigrants, skilled immigrants. So that's another big area that we have to overcome. And the third one, I would say, it's labor markets are not flexible enough to permit the creative destruction that innovation needs. We are increasing our cost of hiring new workers far more than the increase of productivity. Since 2020, the labor productivity is increasing below 1% a year, when we used to have twice as much in the 90s and early 20s. I will finish saying that Chile have a lot of opportunities in mining and energy industry. We are leaders in the lithium and copper industry. We could be big players in the green hydrogen industry. 2/3 of electricity was generated from renewable resource in Chile, but we don't have the capacity and the human resource we need to put those critical industries for the world in a more to take advantage of that between research and development and innovation, because we need first to remove barriers in tax policy, in human resource, in our labor markets.
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to be with you. Well, my experience with Index was very interesting, because I was trying to scroll down the index to find a Peruvian city. You know? It was like, you have forgotten to put the Peruvian cities in this index. And no, they were in 127 position, the first one. Well, there were two cities that performed like very good. One is Moquegua, but this is a city that has a very large mine in a very small town. And also Junín, that is another department that has a very big university that does research on agro products in also a very small town. So that's the reason why they were in the top. But the rest are like below the average. And I think that this happens because what we call the Peruvian paradox. The Peruvian paradox is a macroeconomic, a very good macroeconomic country. So in the next index, you can put some indicators of macroeconomics, and we're going to do it better. But our microeconomic is not very good. And I think that we share lots of problems with the other Latin American countries. The human capital probably is the main gap we have also. Just to share with you some indicators, 9 out of 10 of our children cannot understand what they read, and 8 out of 10 of the children cannot solve simple mathematical problems. So it's a very huge problem in the, and it's linked in some way to more deeper problems in anemia and malnutrition. The levels of anemia are almost 45% of the children under 3 years. So if your brain don't goes well, it's very difficult to understand what you are learning. So there's like very deep problems, and probably we share this problem with other Latin American countries. But it seems that the incidence in the Peruvian case is a little bit more dramatic. But it's not the only thing. Probably this problem is a structural problem, but it's a new problem in Peru. The new problem in Peru is criminality, is the penetration of illegal economies to the formal economy. And to put it in some economic terms, and earlier you were talking about tax imposition, this works like a tax for the business and for the people. Just to share with you some indicators that I have for criminality now. First, the number of extortions has multiplied by 4 in the last 4 years. So it has been duplicated in the last 4 years. There are almost 20,000 of extortions per year in the country. So it's more or less like one extortion every 25 minutes. This is more or less the idea. And the cost, the estimation of the cost is like 2% or 3% of the GDP. And for a small business, it could represent 15% of the revenue. So it's very important. And this has a chain effect, because the most vulnerable to criminality are the small businesses. But the small businesses pertain to value chains, so there's a value chain effect in the economy. So with these numbers, the room of innovation is very small. So you need to decide between where you're going to invest your revenue. If you're going to invest your revenue trying to pay a gang in order to avoid to being killed or being kidnapped, or you are going to use that resource to innovate. So this is the problem that we are facing now. And again, to put it in some economic terms, it's a very sophisticated industry, the industry of crime and the industry of extortion, because they are applying what we are in the office we call the third-degree discrimination system, because they are charging you according to your observable characteristics. If you are an independent worker, probably they are going to put you a very small tax. If you are a bigger business, you are going to put it a higher rate. So they are going to penetrate, and this is interesting because they are penetrating where the tax authority can't penetrate, because the extortion is both in the formal and in the formal sector of Peru. And this is going to be a very huge problem. I don't try to scare anyone, But yesterday we were talking with our Latin American friends, and probably this is something that is going to happen in their countries also. And the only reflection that I could have, and probably we can discuss it later, is that the rule of law is something that happened with the rule of law in Latin American countries. So this is probably one of the main topics that probably we need to talk in the future.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I would like to mention that something really interesting about this report is, like, in general, when we study like the different countries, we always measure it as comparing country to country. Like, one of the things that this report has is that analyze everything at the subnational level. So it actually gives good incentives to see how each region is working and how could it be improved. Now I would like to change the topic a little bit more to go to the innovation part. In the US, in general, they're always talking about like a strategic competition with China, but I would like to know, and for that, innovation is crucial, but I would like to know, like, are you talking, or what do you think that is needed to foster innovation in the different countries, in Mexico, in Brazil, Peru, Chile?
So, innovation capacity. So, it's good to see right now, and I think this index is not reflecting some changes that we are experimenting starting this year, because of course we have data from 1 year or sometimes 2 years.
That happens in every country.
So that's another problem. That's another problem. We face a lot of challenge to find, common variables and everything, because it's something that is very difficult for Latin American countries actually to have data. But well, okay. So I want to mention there are like some changes. Stephen, we were talking about this yesterday. You asked me like, hey, how this administration is maybe different from the previous one, even though it's the same official party. And I said yes, it's different. And one of the things is the relationship with the private company, with private sector, and also their interest to actually do something regarding science, technology, and innovation. So starting this year, the federal administration launched a plan that is called the Mexico Plan 2025. It's public. And one of the things that they are kind of committing publicly is to start using tax incentives for companies to invest in training and to invest in innovation. So that's going to be, we haven't seen any results yet, but there is a commitment there, and that would change a little bit what we're seeing at the subnational level, because one of the things that we understand from this trend is like they're going to create 11 hubs. The hubs are already created, but they are gonna, promote 11 hubs that are not only in the, in the same zones that we have been seeing a lot of economic development. So we're not talking about only the north part of Mexico, but we're talking about also the, the south part, which is Oaxaca, Chiapas, which are like the states that are more. They're not doing great in several variables, not only economic but also social. So we're gonna see that, and that's something that we are expecting a lot in terms of how to promote this innovation capacity, because again, it's gonna consider some effects in terms of knowledge economy, because we're going to see some more skilled workers, and we are also seeing that this public policy, combined with the already seen actions with INPI, which is one of that's the authority that oversees what is related to IP. This could be great, because just a parenthesis, what has been occurring right now in Mexico is this: the federal government has also pay a lot of attention in improving some of the procedures in terms of patents and that. So we think like that, combined with this new vision of accelerating hubs, and it could be a good thing. However, and I think that's something that maybe we can consider for the next report. I do agree with Alvaro in terms of, okay, but what are the risks? I mean, this is good news, but what are the risks, right? And I think the report doesn't show some variables related to the institutional capacity, like the institutional strengthening, that some of those variables are related to rule of law. So, and I can mention 3 risks right now that could actually affect what we're saying right now in terms of, okay, there is a pending agenda in knowledge economy, a pending agenda, and to see how the USMCA is going to end. But there are 3 things that are right now we consider a big risk for innovation and for R&D and for all this capacity that Mexico has. The first one is there has been a debate in terms of what regulators agencies play in Mexico. So we saw this from the previous administration. Some of the antitrust authorities and the Transparency Institute, all of these institutes that were independent and were crucial for Mexico economy, has been demolished. And what we're facing right now is there is a discussion whether they're gonna keep doing that, not only in antitrust, but also in telecom and energy. So that's gonna be very complicated, very, very complicated. The second one is judiciary reform, and I think we mentioned this before. So right now we're facing a very complex situation in terms of like what is going to happen with the judiciary, because now they're elected. And the third thing is the U.S. relationship with Mexico is not only affecting Mexico in terms of tariffs, but also in their interest of how to invest in the country in terms of their cooperation. So what we're seeing right now is like before, the budget that the country had for crime prevention, for justice, and that all came from the U.S. And now we're seeing that under this administration that all of the money on crime prevention is gone. And now they're only focusing on large crimes, which is narco-traffic and especially like the border or stopping migration from Central America. So that could just condition FDI. Yeah. So, and that's something.
Yes, unfortunately we are getting like out of time, so we can keep it for 2-3 minutes. That would be awesome. In order to have like some questions from the public. Yeah.
Okay. Should I say?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. About Brazil, what can I say about it? Improving innovation is related to Brazil startup legal framework. That was a legal framework established in 2021. It's a legislative package that aims to create a more innovation-friendly business environment. It defines startup as a company up to 10 years old with annual revenue below $3 million that either has an innovative business model or it's enrolled in the Innova program from the federal government. What's interesting is that the law reduces bureaucracy by allowing simplified joint stock companies, digital corporate filings, and fast-track registration, while giving investors more certainty. What's interesting about this law also is that it introduces regulatory sandbox in which firms may test new technologies under flexible rules and government supervision, and creates a special procurement regime that lets governments commission innovative solutions from startups without traditional bidding process. So this is something that happened in Brazil in the previous years that can improve the innovation environment.
I will be very brief. I have two thoughts on this. The first one, as all we know, innovation comes from firms and its projects, and we need more firms and firms doing more stuff so they can improve the way they work. However, in the last years, Chile have putting the government and the regulations and the red tape is putting many obstacles, so innovation became more hard and more costly. So I would say that one of the major legacies of the current government is tackling this problem. Implementation, a bill was just approved to rethink all the permits and bureaucracy problems. It's still not implemented, but it has a huge potential to make easier to firms to improve their process and make innovation from the bottom up. It's a potential, it's not yet, but I think it could be a very important thing. And the other thing we need is to devote more resource on research and development. Currently, we are investing 0.3% of our GDP in R&D. That is way below other countries like Australia and New Zealand that are similar to our productive sectors, mining and agriculture. So I will be very happy if someone can help us to understand which incentives are the best to increase our research and development investment. We have spent many governments that try to increase this to 1% of PIB, and we are constantly failing on reaching that. So if someone have good ideas, it would be great.
Thank you.
I'm also going to be very, very brief. So there are some policies and programs that are performing good in Peru also. Maximiliano told us about one, is the law of prevention and elimination of bureaucratic barriers. I'm not going to explain that because Maximiliano already has explained that. But probably there are several things that we need to correct there. But the main idea is to start hearing the private sector. So the public sector establishes a highway to every citizen in Peru can say, there's a bureaucratic barrier that is preventing me for developing a business. So it's as simple as that. We can discuss the legal architecture, but more or less this is a very good idea that is helping lots of business in Peru. The other one that is not in the productive sector but is in the social sector is the innovation laboratories. The innovation laboratories is a program or an institution that the public sector called the academia in order to investigate and implement pilots of innovations. For example, new ways of fighting against anemia or new ways of fighting against school or improve school attendance, for example. No? And there's a very, very good design here because these pilots needs to they have normally impact evaluation, very rigorous impact evaluation, and if they prove that they have an important effect on the social indicators that they try to improve, they are going to be scaled up by the government. And now, most of these laboratories are not only in the ministries, there are some laboratories also in corporations. Most of the corporations, or some of the corporations in Peru, has these social responsibility programs, so they are adopting these kind of models. And this is improving at a very little scale now, but they are improving some ways we can find against some of the social gaps that are in Peru. I just want to mention these two ideas, so I cannot give an idea that everything is bad. Also in Peru, we have a very good example.
Thank you so much. Okay, we have time for one question, so if the audience have one to ask, I would appreciate it.
Bueno.
No, sorry.
Acá. Ahora.
Otra cosa.
Así.
Gíralo. Acá. ¿Se puede hacer en español?
Yo me tenía que poner con la cabeza para el piso. Todo el tema de la innovación, el emprendedurismo y demás, creo yo que los gobiernos no tienen que intervenir absolutamente para nada. En el único lugar donde alguna vez, donde existe la intervención de los gobiernos y han tenido bastante éxito, a pesar de que yo estoy en contra de eso, es en Israel, donde hay concursos anuales de startups y donde, tiene la mayor cantidad de empresas cotizando en Nasdaq fuera de Estados Unidos, de empresas tecnológicas.
Estamos medio cortos
Yo
de
veo
tiempo.
que todos los problemas... Sí, un
pregunta.
segundito. Esa es una pregunta. Entiendo que... Si lo vemos históricamente, creo que esta es la pregunta, ni Thomas Alva Edison, ni Henry Ford, ni Bezos, ni Zuckerberg, ni el de Apple, ni el de Microsoft, le preguntaron a los gobiernos a ver qué tenían que hacer para hacer innovación. Eso no existe. Los gobiernos intervienen porque necesitan autoabastecerse de funciones para poder existir. ¿Creen que es así o no es así?
Gracias.
I agree on that. So that's why, very briefly, I put 3 areas that are important in the case of Chile. One, tax reform that made us more competitive, so more firms and people want to innovate in Chile. The other one, and that's where maybe the governments have a role, is in education and human resource. We don't have the resource to make very frontier innovation because we lack of those human resource to do it. And the third one was the labor markets, that also, if government stiff the labor markets, it's very difficult to make creative destruction in that market that is obviously very necessary to firms to innovate.
Yo en español. Yo tengo datos específicos de cómo ha cambiado justamente eso en México. En México existía antes un Instituto Nacional del Emprendimiento y que su función con el Consejo Nacional de Ciencia y Tecnología era simplemente ser esta arena en donde sí se les daban como incentivos, como que les daban algunos incentivos como para que las empresas solas puedan tener guíen todo el proceso, ¿no? Y eso llevó a varias empresas a tener muy buenos niveles de transferencia de tecnología y muchas de ellas con un perfil de comercialización exterior. ¿Qué pasó? Eliminaron eso y justo hace unos meses han creado la Secretaría, el Ministerio de Ciencia, Humanidades, Tecnología e Innovación, y más bien están cambiando el enfoque a que ellos están concentrando esto y el presupuesto ahora está mucho más concentrado en dar subsidios, que no es lo mismo, ¿no? Y lo que se está viendo es que la capacidad de transferencia tecnológica, el nivel de comercialización de empresas que eran pequeñas y luego salen al mercado internacional ha bajado muchísimo, ¿no? Entonces, sí se ve, hay un efecto en justamente el enfoque en soporte.
Thank you. So, you want to? Okay.
Just to complement, I totally agree that innovation and entrepreneurship are mainly it's for and by the private sector. The issue is that the government created several barriers over. We are discussing now today deregulation. We are discussing smart regulation in order to remove barriers. So in this sense, that what I pointed out in some Brazilian smart regulations, that somehow is trying to remove barriers to innovation or to migration and so on. So, but the issue is that if we remove these barriers and let the private sector to operate, this creates, if you create a business environment and innovation environment, the private sector is gonna take this and improve, in the end, the quality of life of all the citizens of the country.
Well, please join me for an applause for our panelists. And we finished yes. Yeah, we have lunch now, so we invite you to go there. And we are going to be back at 2.